Okay, so that brings us to the 20th century. So we have this turn inward by these political dynasties, and we covered the imperial civil service exams. In the 20th century, we get Mao. So Mao comes to power in China after 1949, and there's really the policies of Mao really collapse China's economy, or collapse and just lead to a prolonged period of stagnation. The foremost example is the Great Leap Forward, where Mao is essentially trying to use the population to propel China above Western powers, and actually they were also trying to propel themselves above the Soviets, because there's sort of like an inner socialist competition between the Soviets and China. In terms of the number of people that died because of policies or because of a movement in the 20th century, this has the largest death rate. So there's somewhere between 30 to 55 million people starved to death, although there are estimates that are way higher than that. The truth is, we don't really know how many people died because of the Great Leap Forward. All right, so here we have Mao. And so there's a couple different prongs, but one is agriculture. So Mao is like following Marxist ideas, where he decides to collectivize the farming. He says, everyone, we're going to put all the peasants into farms, and we're going to have these large collective farms instead of like small scale farming. And the output is owned by the state. So these are essentially state run farms. The peasants have no choice in terms of the crop mix or how long they work or the type of work. So this is top down, command and control agriculture. And the result is massive starvation. So essentially they're dismissing that local knowledge of what to do. And also, if you're a peasant working, you have no incentive to work hard. You have no incentive to do top quality work, because you are not reaping any of the benefit of your work. And so the result is these large collective farms are massively inefficient. Again, they're run by bureaucrats top down who don't really know anything about the local conditions about farming. And also there's no feedback loop where it's like, okay, if you make a product and the product is bad, you hear from your customers or people tell you, and you're like, okay, I'm going to fix it. All right, there's no feedback loop here. They're producing out food. They're not producing enough. So yes, they could see people starving. But again, the incentive is, if I'm running the farm, my incentive is to say, hey, everything's okay, because I don't want to lose my position. And then all the way on up. So, the governor's incentive is to go tell, the national council that, hey, everything's okay. And so things never get fixed, or things never get changed. And we just have massive starvation. As I mentioned, in terms of human lives lost, this is the greatest catastrophe of the 20th century. And for some reason, we never hear about it. For some reason, it's, we hear about other catastrophes, and not trying to minimize those catastrophes, but the Great Leap Forward and the policies of Mao, the number of people killed under Mao's regime is completely, or not completely ignored, but it's generally not given the prominence of other tragedies. Oh, and also it should be noted that a similar policy under Pol Pot in Cambodia was a complete disaster. All right, manufacturing. So China has this 5-year plan where they're going to overtake Britain in steel production. And their idea is, we're going to have these backyard furnaces. We're going to take the existing metal, melt it down. We're going to use this to produce iron. But they don't really have the technology to produce good iron. So they're actually melting down good iron, good made, good pots and pans, and they're melting it and trying to smelt it into something new. But the iron is of so poor quality that they couldn't even make the pan that it came from. So it's essentially they're destroying goods. And there's some videos associated with this that I will post on the website. Another great example of the policies are the sparrows. So sparrows eat grain. Mao says, okay, we're going to kill all the sparrows. They're murdered in mass. And then insects run rampant and destroy the crops. So another failed top-down command and control socialist policy. All right, let's take a break from Mao and we'll come back with something more positive.